Let's start to look big picture, ladies and gentlemen, what the Cup Series looks like in the standings after 16 races. We still have 9 different winners because Kyle Larson won his 3rd race of the season. So Martin Truex Jr. used to be the highest driver on the playoff grid that was a non-winner. That's kind of shot in the foot now, with him running out of gas on the white flag lap. I think his numbers still, if he doesn't win a race in the final 10 races of the regular season, could still easily point his way in. But, we talked about 2 multi-time Cup champs that were below the cut entering Sonoma, and Joey Logano, who didn't have a great result, and Kyle Busch, guys. He was looking at a top 5 finish. Was there a team that needed it more? And then gets wrecked by Ross Chastain. Did Kyle Busch get Chastained? I don't know what we're calling this, but really, it puts Kyle Busch in another very precarious point situation.
I said this yesterday after that. This is 2 weeks in a row where Kyle Busch has been run over. At Gateway, it was Kyle Larson, and, as you just mentioned, Ross Chastain. And this is almost heartbreaking to watch because Kyle Busch does not have a car that is equal to his talent. And it's unfortunate because people see him as a sitting duck. They see him as easy now. In the past, they wouldn't have tried this. I promise you, when Kyle Busch was driving the number 18 for Joe Gibbs Racing, Larson and Chastain would not have tried this with him, but now he's an easy mark.
The frustration level of that team, and it just of Kyle himself, you can tell is like on the verge of bubbling over if it hasn't already. You mentioned it, his talent level and the level of the car that he's in do not match, and that has got to be the most frustrating thing for a driver, especially one the caliber of Kyle Busch. And you're right. Other drivers are now seeing this as an opportunity to potentially do things that they would have never been able to do before, around him or near him. And so, I don't know what the answer is. He doesn't know what the answer is, which is why it's so frustrating. But when you have the opportunity to have a good race, one good race, and it gets taken away from you in an instant, that's just a tough pill to swallow.
Well, I think Ross Chastain, he was just very aggressive all day.
He's a very aggressive. I feel like you could just say Ross Chastain. But I haven't seen that
from Ross this year yet.
You
Not
haven't?
like that.
Well, yeah.
It reminded me of like circa Ross 2023.
Right.
He's back in his comfort zone.
Maybe.
He was roughing up his own teammate. Like at one point, Danielle got on the radio and Danielle was like, am I missing something? What was that?
That was absolutely nuts. But I think it's somewhere between A, he's in his comfort zone, and B, he hasn't won yet.
Right.
And so that's kind of hanging over him. And SVG's coming. Whether y'all want to admit it or not, we're seeing it with AJ Allmendinger. The mistakes AJ has made of late are not normal. But hey, there's a new kid in town, and you can't tell me that doesn't weigh in a competitive field like week over, week in and week out. You can't tell me that doesn't weigh on the drivers, and it does. And if you look at it from the standpoint of, Zane Smith's not exactly setting the world afire, and my sources tell me he's been told to get up on the stick. He has the end of the year to really prove that he belongs in the Cup Series.
Zane's dead last in points. Have you seen a worse rookie season?
No.
And SVG's doing everything right. If Justin has a 3rd charter and wants to run a Trackhouse car next year in Cup, I don't know how you run Zane Smith right now.
Most weeks, you don't even know that Zane Smith is in the race.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that is not good for somebody who is racing for their survival.
So
basically.
I'm looking at the not traditional points. We talked about those earlier. Kyle Larson leads the points. Chase Elliott now is 2nd. Denny fell to 3rd. But here's the playoff grid. So I had thought, and I'm looking at it now, that with Truex running out of gas and finishing 27th, he would have fallen out of 10th. He did not. He only lost 4 points on 10th. So he's still in 10th, the first driver of the winners. So he's the first non-winner. He's still 128 points above the cut. So he's still sitting pretty. Then Ty Gibbs is plus 86. Ross Chastain is sitting 12th at plus 73. Alex Bowman is 13th at plus 65. Ryan Blaney is 14th at plus 64. Chris Buescher is 15th at plus 32. Bubba Wallace holds the final playoff spot right now at plus 8. Just below the cut, guys. The drivers we just mentioned. Kyle Busch is minus 8. So if the playoffs started today, Kyle Busch is out and Joey Logano is now 16 back. He's sitting 18th on the playoff grid, minus 16th. And then Chase Briscoe, Mr. I'm auditioning for a job. I mean, another just awful day. He's 18th. I'm sorry, Chase Briscoe's 19th at minus 27. He lost 17 points to the cut. So it's a very interesting time of year with 10 races to go in the regular season. Alexis, maybe you're right. Maybe that's why we're seeing this aggression from Ross Chastain. Kyle Busch, I thought we saw it peaking at the All-Star race against Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Like, these guys are frustrated. I think Chase Briscoe's more like disappointed than angry. He's not really an emotional kind of angry driver. But I think you're seeing emotions start bubble to the surface.
Yeah, I mean, when you have as many drivers as you have looking for rides, needing a ride, needing to perform to potentially have an opportunity for employment in 2025, and the very small number of seats that are available, you're going to see drivers do things that unfortunately put them in bad situations because it's survival. They're driving for their survival, and aggressive moves are going to happen.
But when you look at it from the standpoint of Kyle Busch, he has a 19-year winning streak on the line. I mean, it's looking pretty precarious right now. I'm not saying he can't do it, but man, with every race that passes, it's getting few.
Yeah,